I'm Janet.
I'm Jacia.
I'm Rachel, and this is Walk is Happening.
Hey guys, so in this episode, we're going to be talking about growing distant with people. So this could be with friends, family, loved ones, just growing distant in general, how we cope with it, and our experiences with it.
How about we start with JC and Janet? Since you guys are all the way in the UK, I think you'd have stronger feelings about this topic than me staying in Hong Kong.
Yes. um, Growing distant with. Okay, I wouldn't say I'm really distant with my family, just because I call my parents every day. Yeah, so I don't really think I'm growing distant with my family. Although like I don't talk. Well, I don't like. I used to see like my grandparents and my cousins and my aunts and uncles like every day because I eat dinner with them, but I wouldn't say I'm particularly distant. Like whenever I do end up talking to like my grandparents, it's almost the same because like they talk the same. They're
Mhm.
just like, oh my God, do you miss our food? Do you miss my cooking? Do blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not really different. And then in terms of like my parents, because since I call them every day, it's like nothing has really changed. I mean, other than the fact that like, I cry sometimes because I miss them a lot,
Mm.
but it's just like like we're always like catching up, always like, oh, what'd you do today? What'd you eat today? Like what you cook, whatever, blah blah blah. Um, yeah. So I'm still relatively close with my parents and family. And yeah.
For me, I've never had that tight of a relationship or like that close. No, I'm close with my parents, but not in the sense that they're like my best friends and I tell them everything. It's more of like a, hey, you're my mom and dad, I'm your daughter, and this is like the relationship we have. It's like parent and child rather than parent child best friends. But uh I think originally I'm not that much of a, how do I say, like 亲戚 in English, like no, intimate, no, affectionate, affectionate. Yeah, I'm not that
Mm,
much of an affectionate
yeah.
person, like in the first place. So unlike JC, I don't really like catch up with my parents every day. Like I do catch up with my parents. We text like maybe every other day, and we call maybe like every 10 days, or like every 2 weeks. But I think because of that, we haven't necessarily grown more distant because it's just always been that way. It's more of like a, it's like a implicit, we understand how we are both feeling, like both parties, and like my parents are also not that affectionate and intimate in the first place either, so I guess it kind of works out. So in terms of like extended family, I'm not sure if I've grown more distant with them, because I usually, my interactions with extended family happens through actually seeing them in person. So even in Hong Kong, I don't regularly like text them and be like, "Hey, uncle, auntie, like what's up?" Like I don't really do that. But I recently sent postcards back home because I I felt kind of bad. I like, okay, I felt like I should do something to tell them, like, oh, like, hey, I'm fine in the UK, like don't worry about me. So I sent each like nuclear family postcards to tell them that I'm okay and stuff. But yeah.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so cute.
So for me, I'm still staying in Hong Kong. So I feel like because I've been boarding, this is my third year boarding now. Sounds crazy. Not really boarding because I've been home a lot of the time, but still third year boarding. But even in LPC and even in uni now, I go home every weekend. So I go home on Fridays and then I go back on Mondays. So I still spend every weekend with my family. And usually holidays or like important days, I usually spend with my family instead of my friends. So I feel like our family, I don't know, it's like kind of unspoken kind of agreement that we would spend important days together. And like Janet, my family isn't like best friends. I tell my parents all my secrets and stuff like that. We kind of like I do tell my parents a lot of things, but we're not close to the type of best friend level. So I think it hasn't really changed throughout these few years. It's just keeping like the same kind of relationship, and yeah, not much has changed.
I think on that note though, like because like Rachel and I aren't necessarily best friends with our parents, do you ever like wish that you had that sort of relationship with them? Because like I have friends who do have that sort of relationship, and I have friends who have even like colder, more distant relationships with their parents. So I feel like personally I'm in like a nice little middle spot. But do you ever wish you had it
Mm.
like a different sort of relationship with them?
I personally I
Mm-hmm.
like it this way. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like being too close to my parents kind of I don't know, because my parents are kind of strict in some ways. And I feel like if I tell them more things, then I kind of lose a bit of the freedom I get to do
Mm-hmm.
things. So I kind of like to keep this like a bit of distance, but I don't like being too like distant from my family because I feel like I mean you're living
True.
together. You're like spending time together. I feel like keeping a good distance is good for me. How about
I
you?
mean, at the same time, well, like, would do you think that if you told your parents more things, they'd be like, "Oh, like my daughter trusts me, so in turn, I should reciprocate that trust to her, and therefore give her more agency to do what she likes because I trust that she will be responsible with what she does, and I trust that she will know, you know, what to do and when to do things in a way that she knows we would want her to, or like something similar."
Because I feel like I'm personally quite open with my family. Like every dinner, I would share like
Mm-hmm.
what's going on
Mm-hmm.
at school, and things like that. But my parents don't really share what
Oh,
they
that's
do in
true.
work at work. So like it's like not
Mm-mm-mm.
reciprocated. Like I'm sharing so much of my life with them, but they're not really sharing with me. So I don't know how to like get them to open up. And then I feel like them not sharing kind of subconsciously tells me to like, oh, some parts of my life I should
Mm.
still keep private to myself. How about you? Are your parents also like that?
Um, I think it depends. Like sometimes, all three of us. I'm an only child. All three of us really have to be in like the right mood at the same time. Like if we are, we can talk for hours and like not stop. But at the same time, sometimes when like one of us is grumpy, then the other two are like, "Wait a second, we have to like, you know, be careful or whatever." But like, uh, yeah, I think so. It's I guess might be like wishing for too much for them to like tell me stuff about whatever because I don't really do that. I'm quite a private person even with my friends actually. It's like let alone family. But um yeah, I think I wish that they would tell me more about how they're feeling or whatever. But then again, it might be part of like the culture because I feel like the Chinese culture really values like respecting the elders and having like really distinguished and different types of relationships with other people and stuff like that. So that might also be a byproduct of this sort of upbringing and the way that they were raised. But maybe through us, I'm sure they've opened up more. Like, I'm not sure what kind of relationship my parents had with my grandparents, and that might have had some influence. But,
Mhm. Yeah, and I also feel like Chinese culture, we always have this mindset of like, if we can do it, then we don't like
yeah, yeah, it's
麻烦其他人.
like,
Like this kind of mindset. It's like, oh, if I'm not feeling good, then I should like deal with it myself instead of sharing it. I feel like that also has quite an impact on like how much my parents tell me
true.
about their life or how they're
Yeah, it's like,
doing.
I don't like, you try your best not to be a quote unquote burden upon others. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a feeling JC has a different relationship.
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so I don't tell my parents everything. Like, okay, well, yeah, no. I don't tell them every single thing that's going on in my life, but I just tell them, okay, me and my mom love to gossip. So I
Mhm.
gossip to her. Particularly if it's like about like one of my close friends, or like cause she knows like some of my friends, so then she'll ask,
Mhm.
oh, how's this person, and then like if there's like something going on, I just like and like gossip about them. But
Mhm.
shh.
Mhm.
But in terms of like my like personal feelings, like if I'm feeling sad, or like
Mhm.
if there's like some complications with like me and like let's say like my boyfriend, I don't like really tell them. I kind of like, well, obviously, if there's like a problem with me and my boyfriend, we figured out anyways. So there's
Mhm.
no need to tell them. Um, and like if I'm feeling like sad, or like I wouldn't like call them crying.
Mhm.
I usually never like cry in front of my parents, even like at home. I like cry in my room. And then when I go see my parents, because I always say goodnight, so then I'll have to see them anyway. My mom be like, "Did you cry?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Stop doing." She's like, "No need to cry. No need to be stressed." I was like, "Okay." Yeah, so like in terms of like personal feelings, like internal like stuff, I don't really tell them, but I'll always just be like, "Oh, I miss you a lot." Or like,
Mm.
I want to go back to Hong Kong.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but it's more just like it's just a lot like we kind of ask the same, like we ask each other the same stuff every day. She's like, what did you do today? What did you eat? What are you going to eat? What did you cook? What did you make? What are you doing tomorrow? But it's
Mhm.
Mm.
for me, because I've always asked them that even when I was in Hong Kong. Like I'd always be like, oh, 你聽日做咩? Or like 你出唔出去㗎嘛? Right? So it's just like it's already like routine for me, so I don't really feel that like our relationship is not, I don't know. We have like we're really close, but it's not like really like intrusive of really like deep personal things, you know what I mean? Because I'm sure like if
Mm.
my mom's feeling sad, like sometimes like in person I'll see like she's sad, but then like she ends up figuring out, like she ends up figuring it out anyways, because she's the type of person to be active. Like if something's like wrong, then like after like 30 minutes she'll figure it out, and she'll solve the problem. And I guess like I picked it up, so then I like solve my own problems in that sort of way. So then you're but then also like because my brother, I haven't seen him in like a year ish, because
Mm.
he's in the States, right? But even though I don't talk to him as often as I talk to my parents, we talk like probably once every like two, like either once every month or like once every 2 months.
Mm.
So it's actually not that often. But then every time I call him, we end up calling for like almost an hour and a half. And we would just be like catching up. But then it's like nothing has ever changed. And I sort of feel that with some of my friends as well. Like when I call my friends sometimes and they're like in a different place,
Mhm.
and like so much time has passed, but when you call them, it feels like no time has passed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the same with like if you guys talk to your friends. Because it's different, like texting and calling is different, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like I would in on that note, like would you say you have a closer relationship with your friends than your family, or is it just like the same type of closeness but it's just a different type of relationship? Because I
That is
always
a
think
really good
about
question.
this, and I know that I definitely do talk to my friends a lot more, and I tell them more and more vulnerable around them. I am more, I guess, open to the extent that I am open. But uh I don't know. It's like I wonder if my parents wished that they had like that friend relationship with me just so I would tell them more stuff. Because like I said, I don't have that type of relationship with them. So
Mm.
is it like a me problem or
No, no,
like
it's not. It's not.
because sometimes I feel guilty. Like I know that they care about me a lot, but for some
Mm.
reason it's so difficult for me to like actually open up to them.
Mm.
And
I
I wonder
yeah.
if I saw them in a different light, like, oh, you are not my parent, you are my friend, would I tell them more or you know, or maybe subconsciously I just don't want them to worry about me. So then this goes back to what Rachel was saying about how if I can do it myself, I don't want to be a burden upon others. Therefore, I don't even
Mm.
want to show the slightest bit of vulnerability. So maybe it's like a self-defense mechanism, but I don't know.
No, I get that. Like, the thing is, I wasn't as close as I am, like, with my parents, probably like back in high school. Like,
Mm,
I just recently became close with my parents. I think probably past, definitely like past year, but I'd say the past like 2, 3 years. And like before that, like before we got like a bit closer,
mhm,
it's always just like I don't tell them everything. It was just like, oh, how's your day? What are you doing tomorrow? I have
mhm,
school. I have to do this after school. And it's like kind of like almost like surface level in a way. Like I wouldn't tell them
Yeah, exactly.
like super like deep stuff like what's happening with my friends or like but I feel like even like if you do want to end up having that relationship, like I mean, it's never too late, you know?
Mm,
Like your parents aren't gonna die in the next like year.
hopefully.
It-
Touch wood.
Touch wood, touch wood.
in theory, okay, but yeah, like it's never like if you want, I feel like if you want that relationship with your parents or like if you do want to be closer, like it can happen. Like it's not impossible.
Mhm.
But then I do understand that it is
I
hard
think
to talk to your parents about some
Yeah.
things because it's just a bit like uncomfortable. And but I think that's why you also have friends because that's what your friends are for, right? Like you tell
Mm,
your friends more like deeper like personal shit
mm, mm,
than your parents. And I think
mm,
like the relationship like the difference in those relationships is what makes it like work.
mm,
Like and you know, you're able to like function properly without having to internalize everything.
mm, mm,
Yeah.
because from like I think a book I've read before, it's like types of doctor-patient relationships, but I think it's applicable to like this
mm,
scenario because there's the parental relationship. Like the doctor tells you like, oh, what you should take. This is the treatment plan that's best for you, so therefore you should go for it. But now we're moving towards like a more patient-centered type of care. So you're like going from the patient's perspective, oh, these are your treatment options and you can choose which treatment to go. And I think my relationship to my like with my parents is still very like parental based. Like when I'll tell like for example if I'm having trouble with like stuff at school and stuff like that and I talk to my parents about it, my parents would a lot of times give me advice, but that's not necessarily what I want
Mm.
to hear. I just want them
comfort
to
you.
like kind of
Yeah.
understand, yeah, or something like that. But often my dad would just go off and tell me like his life lessons and like advice on how I should go like continue to solve this problem, but it's not what I want to hear. And sometimes I told him this before, but then it's hard to change, I think, because he's speaking from like someone who has done this before. He's speaking from like一個過來人嘅
Mm,
perspective. Yeah, so I think our parents might like we might have to talk to our parents about like the type of relationship we want with
mhm.
them and try to like mold it into that type of way. Are your parents like that?
No,
or
no,
is
no.
it just
I
my
definitely
parents?
relate to you on that. Like sometimes when I try to like tell them something, and then it always ends up becoming some like life lesson or some here
Yeah.
is what you should do, or oh like oh you should think about this and that and blah 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 blah, and it just becomes like um it's irritating in some sense, because sometimes these are things that you already know. Like you don't have to like tell me something I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I already know
Mm.
that I should be
Mm-hmm.
da 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 da. But obviously it's like hard to get there, right? That's like telling some homeless person to just get up, get a job and get rich. Like no shit. But like how the fuck
Yeah.
is this person gonna do that, you know? Like it's difficult. So I think that also sometimes like deters, maybe like creates friction in the relationship to wherever we want the relationship to go. But at the same time, I do understand that they're just trying to help. And
Mm.
it might be like there might be some generation gap going on there, because I think it might be more of a modern thing, like nowadays, to be more vulnerable and open with things compared to perhaps their generation.
Mm.
So it's hard
Yeah.
for them not to echo how they were brought up and raised, and sort of replicate that with how they raise their own children, I guess. But, you know, you just have to talk it out. What about growing distant with friends? Like, since coming to the UK, I've noticed that I am much less active in messaging people. I'm just like bombarded with so many messages, and I'm just, I don't know. But
It's okay. You're better than some people in our friend group.
sure. But the interesting thing is, I think even though we've talked less, it doesn't necessarily mean we've grown distant. Like personally, I think it's okay to grow distant. I think it's just a part of life. Like you can't expect to keep in contact with the people that you grew up with and blah blah blah, like every day in the same way that you did when you actually saw them every day because of school or for various other reasons. Like just because you don't really talk to them doesn't mean you grow more distant. But to me, the best type of friendships is when you can like pick up where you left off, and there's no hard feelings between that. Because then at some point, it just feels like you're trying to maintain like a business relationship or something. But I don't know. Like this might just be me, because I kind of like being alone. I like I love my me time and stuff like that. But go on.
For me, because a lot of my closer friends flew to UK, and I feel like I'm missing some like friends that I can just call and then we can just like go out spontaneously. Like I don't know, like I still think to text these friends sometimes, but then it's like the time difference and things like that that makes it hard. Like we plan to call, but then they have school and it's too late for me or things like that. So I think it's hard to maintain these relationships. But then when we talk, I think we still keep like we still pick it off of where we left off because we still like exchange how we're doing recently and then things like that. So I don't know. I don't know if we're growing distant or it's just life getting in the way.
I think at the same time though, like those type of like spontaneous go out, eat, do whatever has not been replaced, but well, it has been replaced, but not in the sense that you no longer you like the friends you were close with will no longer be able to do these things with you. It's just like emotionally that attachment is still there. It's just that physically it's impossible. So therefore it's been replaced, and I say that in a loose sense, by people who can actually physically fulfill this role for you now, like your uni friends or your flatmates or whatever. Like just because that has happened doesn't mean that this cannot happen again when the physical barrier is gone.
Mm.
Like for me, like my friendship group with like the boys and like Joanna and Phoebe, like that group, like obviously we're like split all over the world, and like I hang out with like the people who are around out and about in UK. We still do go out sometimes, but obviously there's still like a group that's in Hong Kong, right? Like if they were here, they would be coming along with whatever the fuck we choose to do. But because they're not, then obviously they're not here. But that doesn't mean when we're all back in Hong Kong, we won't continue to do the same things. It won't be like, oh, only the UK people will continue to go out. Like, that's not going to happen. So then, does that mean we've grown distant? Or does that mean we're just unable to do something because we physically cannot do it anymore? Like, well, but then I guess at the same time, because the frequency that you hang out with them sort of decreases, maybe they're like missing out on some key memories that are formed. But like, what can you do about that, you know?
You can't really do much anyway.
Exactly.
Do you think you ever like truly grow distant with your friend group? Like, because you are in different unis, you're learning different things. Like, the level of growth you have from uni would be different. And there's stuff like, I don't know, when we're adults, but when we're more like how do I phrase this? If our mindset is more like mature, like there are other things you have to care about, like I don't know, like the kind of social group we are in when we like grow older. I don't know, social class maybe, or like a lot of different like
having different
things in reality that
priorities.
we have to care about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Then
have you guys watched Friends before? I feel like JCI doesn't like Friends.
Yes.
You said that before,
No,
right?
I've watched it. And no, it's okay. It's not
Okay,
bad.
there was
I
you
like
know
it.
how there was a scene in Friends where the six of them went out to dinner, like in this fancy restaurant, and then three of them, I think Rachel, Phoebe, and Joey, and then there were the other three who were like more well off. It was Chandler, Ross, and Monica. Basically, the six of them went to this fancy dinner place, and then the three that were less well off were like, guys, we can't keep going to these places. Like, you realize the three of us can't afford it, right? Like, this is not the place that we can frequently go to. But on the flip side, the other three, namely Ross, Chandler, and Monica, that was the type of place that they could afford to go to frequently because of just where they were in life and their careers and etc. And I thought that was an interesting dynamic. Like, I never really considered how when we grow up, my friends and I might be in different places, and there might be different circumstances that prevent us from, there's like more factors that we have to consider other than are you free? Like, does that make sense? I thought that was like an interesting thing that I actually never considered as adults that we'd have to think of
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
understand. But yeah.
Stop laughing, Rachel. No, I just slipped my elbow off the table. That's why she's laughing. Calm down. No, but yeah, I get that. And I sort of kind of got that. Okay, so in high school, you could tell whose family or was, I don't want to
More
say
well
richer, but
off.
was more well off than others.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it is like, so for me, okay, how do I phrase this? You can cut some parts out, but like for me, hanging out with some people was just like, I don't know, I just felt like, because I knew I didn't have as much money or like as much to
Yeah.
like spendable money as them.
Yeah.
So sometimes hanging out with them would just be a bit like, meh, it's just
Yeah.
like,
Mm,
I
yeah,
feel
definitely.
I feel like, I wouldn't say I feel lesser than them, but I just feel a bit like
Out of
like-
place.
out of place. And sort of like, if someone, okay, this is like not relating to anyone in particular, but I feel like if
Mhm.
your friend like knows or has an idea of how like the difference between like spendable money or like spendable like not really income because we don't like earn income right now, but like
Yeah.
spendable money that they have, then it's like they like there should be like a compensation point between like two people to find some place or like something to do like that doesn't risk the other person of actually having no money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like now because we're in uni, like I don't know, I see a lot of change in a lot of people very, very fast.
In what
And
sense? Like people you knew,
in
and
a
then
sense,
they're
like yeah, and then people like people I knew, you can actually like see them like living their life with the amount of money they have. And it's just like, I don't know, the change, I don't know. Okay, I don't know where I'm going with this. But okay, let's just not relate this to money anymore. But I'm just saying, some people that I see like change so fast that I feel like I'm growing distant with them, even though like I didn't want to.
oh, I see what you mean. I think
You,
like it's almost like in uni there is no like they're not self-constraining anymore, and they're living they're making lifestyle choices as they would without
yeah.
any barriers in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And they're doing
Yes.
that now. So
Oh my
then
God, it's so true.
as a byproduct of that, you feel like there's just like a fork in the road and you guys are just moving in different directions.
Yes. Oh my God, you took the words out of my mouth.
Okay.
Dude.
I think I see what you mean.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think that's happened to me. I don't think I've experienced that. But I do experience the first part, as in how you can sense that there are discrepancies in just like family wealth and how one chooses to live their life, like either more lavishly or frugally. Like I feel like I say this every episode by now, but like I'm cheap, right? But like I definitely do sense, like I look around even in uni right now, there are definitely people that are like these people are so well off. Like I just can't comprehend it. But at the same time, I don't feel pressured to try and like live the way that they do or live up to what they use, like their habits and their choices and whatever. Like I don't feel pressured to do that, because at the same time there are people who are more like me. So I think it's just a matter of finding people who are more like me. But obviously for you it's much more different, because this is a matter of someone who you were close with in Hong Kong and then are now living really differently once that they've come here. So there's like a before and after. But for me it's just like a now. Like so I don't know.
Yeah. Like in a way, because like they're able to now do what they want that they couldn't do like in high school, and like they're not restricted by their parents or their friends, and they can basically, or they have in a sense reinvented themselves in uni. That I feel like this might sound a bit selfish, but I feel a bit betrayed, because as someone who's been like their friend for like years, right, or like who's been there for a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
it's just a bit like sort of disheartening for me, because I always like, when it comes to friends, I always try and like text, or like sometimes like I'll text like, oh, how are you doing, like how's uni, like from time to time, not always. Like I don't text my friends every day, that's a bit unrealistic, but like I try and catch up or like try and call or whatever. And as someone who has been like friends with them for like so long, it's just a little bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like
It's almost like, are you the real you now, or like were you just pretending before for all the years that I knew you, or did this change actually happen this rapidly and it's just something out of my control? Or was it just like, was it a facade? Like, was our relationship even real? Like,
yeah,
like that type of sentiment.
The thing is, like, I kind of always knew that this change is gonna happen, but I didn't expect this change to happen so drastically, if you know what I mean. And it's
Yeah.
like so drastic to the point where it's like, do you even care about? Do you even care about me anymore? Because sometimes it's like, when I do end up catching up with this person, it's like there's so many things. I feel like so many crucial things that I should have known as someone who was or like who is close to you that I just
Yeah.
didn't know. And I feel like in that sense, like I do feel a bit like betrayed and just a bit like, just it's just like, you know what? And I feel like sometimes there is a point where I'm just like, you know what? I'll just let you be. You do what you want. Like, it doesn't really matter anymore. You're you in like this other place. But yeah.
I get how you feel because I have a friend like that. And sometimes I think like, oh, like, is the friend I'm thinking of the you before? Like, would I still be friends with the you right now? And this kind of feeling like, it's like when we talk, everything is fine, but like it's the
Yes.
vibes
Exactly.
that don't
Exactly.
match anymore.
Like when you talk with them and when you catch up, it's like almost the same. But then it's like
Yeah.
you see their life and it's just like
Yeah.
it's like I can't believe I was friends with this, or like I am friends with this person. You know? And it's just like you see them and you like they're doing all this stuff. They're doing like, and I feel like some people like, okay, I don't like, to be fair, I don't really care what you do. Like you can do whatever the hell you want, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to do this, you go do it. I'm not gonna like, as a friend or as a person like who I can't like stop you. But then it's just also like they're doing stuff that you wouldn't like, that like you wouldn't want to be around that person because they're doing like that stuff. But then you can't like say no. You just kind of have to like deal with the fact that they're changing and that you're changing, or like you're not changing. I don't know. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if that's like a part of life that
Yeah.
people like, and I mean it is. People do change. But I feel like personally, like I'm not ready to let go. Like I'm not ready to accept the change.
Let go of
Yeah,
who
like
they
I'm not
were,
ready to
right?
like, I don't know, the memories that we had or like the friendship. Like I'm not ready to accept that they're changing so fast without me. You know, and I know like that sounds selfish on like probably so many levels, but it's like that's how I feel. Like they're changing so,
It's like your relationship hasn't changed, but the person has
yeah,
changed, and you're like,
and you don't know where that
but
dynamic
we're close.
stands
Yeah.
anymore. Like what is gonna happen when you see each other again, right? Like is
Yeah.
the dynamic gonna be the same or is it gonna be different? But you don't know because when you talk to them, it's the same, but they're different. It's like
Yeah.
you get what I mean. You get what I mean.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's selfish though. Like, obviously, as an individual, I feel like the priority should be what you want. Like your obligation should not be to satisfy others, but to like
Yeah.
understand what you want and the direction that you wish to go. But at the same time, if that's all you're focusing on, then maybe there's also like an issue on your part, right? Like like if this like okay, I'm happy for this person that you are able to go do what you want, you're able to be who you want to be. But at the same time, what about the other people that you've quote unquote left behind, like do you have the responsibility to maybe not explain yourself? I feel like nobody should have to explain themselves if like they're just fulfilling what they personally want, right? But maybe it's like a lack of closure is making you feel like you
Yes.
are in a difficult place,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. 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 Preach, Janet.
So maybe it's just that. So maybe it's like also some part, like they're partly responsible for not giving you this closure that you want and deserve. But you know, I've never been in this situation, so I can't speak for you and this person, but
Mm-hmm.
that's
Like,
just what I think.
it's
That's
okay.
my 2 cents.
Like I did actually have a period of time, and this went on for like 2 weeks. I was like asking like advice because I really wanted to talk to. I wouldn't say confront them, but I really wanted to talk to them and be like,
Mm.
"What is this?" Like,
Mhm.
because I personally I did feel like I needed a bit of closure to sort of understand like why this like how this change is happening so fast and what made them inclined like
Mm.
to do like to make these decisions, and it's like
Mm.
in the end I actually did it. I just ended up just catching up with them. So like I think I think like I just was like, you know what, sometimes you have to let it go. You have to just like let them do what they want, and whatever happens when you meet up eventually, like it'll happen. Like if I end up like being close to them or not being close to them, like that's whatever. Like that's part of life.
Yeah.
But sorry, it just just a lot of like weight off my shoulders. But yeah, I'm glad you guys know what I'm like. The
Yeah.
feeling. Like I'm glad Rachel understands, and I'm glad you're able to take the words out of my mouth. But yes, yeah.
I think it'd be nice to like finish off by talking about growing distant with yourself. Like I see this is written on the notes. I don't necessarily know what that means. Like nothing really comes to mind right
Me
now.
neither.
But I thinking growing distant with yourself.
I think
Yeah.
for me, it's when I go back to things I've written before, or like videos of me before. I'm like, who is this person? Why have I done that? Like, what are my thoughts then? Because I feel like personally within these few years I've grown a lot.
Definitely, me too.
And like the way I feel or like see things has changed. And I'm like, why? Like, who was this person before? And why was she like this?
I don't think that's a bad thing though. If anything, I wish to continue growing distant with myself because that means I've changed. And I think to consistently rethink things and update your beliefs and values, obviously, hopefully in like a positive trajectory and not like in a backwards way, is a good thing. I think it's really important actually to not to identify yourself as someone who is open to change rather than this is what I believe, this is what I feel. Anything that contradicts this, no. Like I don't think that's a nice way to live, and that's not a nice way to approach things in general. So like in the same way as you, I feel like I've changed a lot the past 2, 3, 4, I don't X amount of years, and I wish to continue doing so because that means I'm learning more, and obviously with more life experience, you will gradually update whatever you feel, right? And like interesting, like I was learning about this in class last week. It's like the projection bias, and like we were talking about like happiness in like the behavioral science module and what it means to be happy. So basically the projection bias is when it's like a self-forecasting error. It's when you fail to recognize that yourself in the future will most likely not share the same beliefs and values as yourself in the present. And therefore, because of that, you tend to make very short-sighted decisions that will align with who you are now, but not necessarily with who you will be. And I think that was interesting because a lot of the times we might end up doing things that benefits ourselves in the short term without actually considering the long term, which is actually which is like the most likely or like the heaviest determinant determinant, is that a word? Determinant of like what will actually lead to our like happiness or well-being in general. So I think growing distant with yourself is not necessarily a bad thing. As long as, but at the same time, you want to be self-reflective, right? So maybe you should acknowledge that you held different views or you were a different person in the past, but at the same time be okay with that. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I feel like throughout, like, when we're undergoing like self growth and stuff, I think it's important to keep to our, how do I say
Principles.
in English?
Mm.
Yeah. Keep to your principles. Like, your principles can change and they can be altered, but like you just need this compass to keep you like,
Mm.
I don't know, keep you
Yeah.
logical and rational. Moral of the story.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much to say. You guys couldn't say it, said it all. Yeah, and I don't know. I think like as long as I don't know, or because I don't know, you have like your own characteristics, and I think like most of that won't probably change. Like, because I remember I asked you guys, it was like for like school project, but I asked you guys like 3 phrases like to describe my personality, and I think like reflecting back, those those characteristics and traits haven't really changed in the past few years.
Mm.
It's just what like just my personal mindset and like, you know, external factors.
Mm.
So I think you're never really like growing distant with yourself. I don't know. I don't know. That's a hard topic, but yeah, I mean, you guys kind of summarized what I was thinking anyways. Yeah.
Should we move to recommendations? Or do we have
Sure.
any last thoughts?
Yes.
No, that's it.
We'll leave that as a thought for our audience. What do
About
they
growing
think?
distant with yourself. Yeah.
Growing distant.
Mm.
Yeah.
So recommendations. I can go first. I have a recommendation, and it's to listen to this album called let me just double check. It's called Untidy Soul by Sam Henshaw, and it's really good. It's a really, really good album. His songs are very good, very like uplifting, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Very like vibey, and it's very like catchy as well. Really good. You should listen. 10 out of 10 stars. Would recommend.
So for my recommendation, I've been watching a show recently. It's called Informal Talks. It's a Mandarin show, but it's like there are 11 individuals from different countries, and they all sit together and they talk about a certain issue. And the issue is like very contemporary. It's very modern. It's not like those, I don't know, like boring textbook topics, but it's like something that is like
Like thought provoking.
that's
Oh, okay.
relevant. Yeah, and they talk about how it links to their own cultural background, or they also speak about it from their own perspectives. And I feel like I learned quite a lot from the show, like learning how different people think and how they debate, and yeah, stuff like that. And there are a lot of episodes. I'm only on season 2. Season 2 has like 50 episodes. I'm only on season 2, episode like 30 something. There's like 6 seasons. So it's taking me a while. So that's what I've been doing recently.
My recommendation is to try Alpro soy milk. It's so good. Get the sweetened version. Don't get the unsweetened version. It doesn't really have that much difference in terms of calories, but just it'll make life better for you. Like Alpro soy milk, and this is not specifically, but this is especially for people who in like outside of Hong Kong who don't have access to like actual 豆漿, like 粥鋪豆漿, and like they just want some soy milk. I think that's the closest one you can find, and it tastes really nice. It doesn't taste artificial, I think. So yes, Alpro sweetened soy milk.
Nice.
And it's cheapest from MS, surprisingly, rather than Tesco and Sainsbury's, which is interesting.
MS is so expensive.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not
MS
expensive,
actually
but
has
it's
the
more
cheapest
expensive.
milk. Yeah, and Marks and Spencer's has the cheapest milk. Everything else, I'm pretty sure Tesco and Sainsbury's is cheaper, or even Lidl and Aldi, of course. Yes, all pro sweetened soy milk.
Nice. Okay, that is the end of our episode. I hope you all enjoyed this episode and I don't know, take our thoughts
Food
with
for
you.
thought.
Soy milk.
Yeah, food for thought. Soy milk for thought, you know?
Soy milk for thought.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.